in the schedule, there is a topic called Beyond Colonial Divisions, looking at Saṃskṛtam and Tamil together. Let me just very quickly run through a few points which I wanted to mention in this. Now, there is no doubt, there is no questioning the fact, and it is a fact, that this notion of putting Saṃskṛtam in a different language family and putting Tamil in a different language family, historically, it is very clear that that was first proposed by colonial writers, starting with Francis Ellis in the in the second decade of the 19th century, and then, of course, in the sixth decade of 19th century with Robert Caldwell. Now, while like the concept note mentions for this symposium, that while there are differences between Saṃskṛtam and Tamil, how much attention has been actually paid to the similarities, especially in the last 150, 200 years. And I'm so glad Gopu Avargal showed certain slides that actually kind of helps me dovetail into what I'm going to show next. And before that, I actually asked the new kids in town, Gemini, Google Gemini and ChatGPT this question, right? Because Saṃskṛtam is grouped with Greek. Do Saṃskṛtam and Greek contain even one letter that is a precise phonetic match, right? Precise phonetic match. Now, this is the response that I got from Gemini. Of course, it is not the last word, but it says Sanskrit and Greek are both Indo-European languages. Indo-European languages have some phonetic similarities. Thus, Sanskrit and Greek likely have some phonetic matches. So the answer is yes. So I pressed on and I asked, I'm not asking if it is likely. I'm not asking about similarities. I'm asking about even one instance of a precise phonetic match between Saṃskṛtam and Tamil. Please answer with a yes or a no. And the answer from Gemini was a no. Now, ChatGPT saved me some time. It actually responded to the very same question. Answer with a yes or a no. Do Sanskrit and Greek contain even one letter that is a precise phonetic match? And the answer from ChatGPT was no. Now, do Saṃskṛtam and Tamil contain even one letter that is a precise match? In my assessment, a whopping 26, right? At least 10 vowels, 16 consonants. That's roughly about 84% of the Tamil alphabet. They are precise phonetic matches, and you saw this in Gopu Avargal's presentation as well in different ways. Now, on the left, on the top, in the light purple, you have the current listing of the Devanagari Aksharas. And in the table, you have the Tamil, the IAST, which is the common bridge between them, and the Saṃskṛtam. And as you can see, there are 13 Tamil vowels. There is, of course, an emic term for the term for vowels, but I'm just using that for the purpose of convenience over here. Now, also Gopu Avargal touched upon the small a and small o as being missing, and he is absolutely correct when he says that from a contemporary point of view. But over here, I must add that Kanchi Acharya, Mahaperiyava, whose photo is right behind me over here, Pujya Shri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Swamigal. I am quoting from a book, attributed to him. It's called the Hindu Dharma, quote unquote, on going through Patanjali's commentary on the sutras of Panini, I discovered that Sanskrit too has these short vowels, and it was a comforting discovery. Patanjali says that in chanting the Satyamugri and Ranayina shakhas of the Samaveda, the short A and O are used, unquote. Now, I've given the exact reference. This quotation is from page 295 in his book. It has been cited in a paper that I've co-authored with Manogya Shastri, the A of ABC of Indian chronology. Now, the exact reference for that is over here. So if you see this, ardham ekaram, ardham okaram. Okay, so it's very clearly mentioned. So while Gopavargal is absolutely correct when he says that it is certainly not in use currently, at least Kanchi Acharya has been able to spot this usage at an earlier time, and which he found as a very comforting, discovery. Now, if those two are also included in the table on the left, then other than the ak in Tamil, pretty much the phonetic similarity. And in my view, any language fundamental building blocks are its aksharas. And similarly, if you look at the consonants on the right side, right in the middle of the slide in light violet are what are today's Devanagari aksharas. At the very bottom, I've included L as well. That is considered not part of the standard Devanagari right now, but for people who are familiar with this topic, there are more details in a paper that I've written on reading Yaskar's Nirukta in 2020. You will see where that has occurred before Panini's time, before texts attributed to Panini, specifically the Ashtadhyayi. Because of the absence in the Ashtadhyayi, there is a particular view on it. But if we leave that aside, and even if we take a very conservative view, chalo, let's leave the ones in light yellow and light red in both the tables. This is a staggering number of, a whopping similarity uh, in the phonetics of the basic aksharas. Now, I'm not sure how this can be completely eliminated or not even being considered when we are talking about, language families, etc. Things, after all, build from the aksharas. And it is striking to me, at least, that Greek and Saṃskṛtam, for instance, do not share even one letter, which is a precise, not similar, but precise match. Of course, Greek and Sanskrit and other languages which are considered part of Indo-European do contain certain other similarities. This is not the only metric. But for this to not get the attention that I think it should get is quite interesting to me. Now, after this, I'd like to show this particular book. This book is edited by Angela Marcantonio and Girish Nath Jhaji. Now, Angela Marcantonio is a linguist, an Indo-European linguist, specifically trained in this field. Girish Nath Jhaji is in JNU. He was a professor of Sanskrit. Now he's currently loaned from JNU to head the central body for terminologies, scientific terminologies across different bhashas in India. He is featured, we've had him on INDICA a couple of times. Now, I want to read out a couple of lines, a few lines actually from his book. As noted above, there are more features shared between the two dominant families of India, Indo-Aryan and Dravidian, than between Indo-Aryan and the Western members of the Indo-European family. The sound systems of all Indian languages across families show remarkable similarity in terms of vowel and consonant systems, syllable structure, and the sandhi phenomenon. The lexical and morphographical systems show more cohesiveness, either postpositional, right, or inflectional, right? Now, the common vocabulary store of the Indian languages on both sides of the Vindhyas, the mountain ranges that divide North and South India and hence Indo-Aryan and Dravidian family, is in excess of 50%. Malayalam, the new Dravidian language, has as much as 75% Sanskrit vocabulary used in literary domain. Tamil has 48% or more, right? Now, thus, on a closer comparison of the Indo-Aryan and Dravidian languages, one may find surprising similarities. It might perhaps not be very surprising for our ancestors, but for those who have grown up on this notion of very different families, very different, what are the differences, focus only on the differences, this is likely to come across as surprising. The areal and typological similarities among Indian languages are so great that one may even fancy a common origin for them. This has support from the genetic studies as well, etc. So I'm not getting into the other parts of it. So in his conclusion, he writes, and I quote, the paper ends with some related arguments on the Aryan-Dravidian controversy and suggests a common origin, Proto-Indic, for these two language families, so far assumed distinct from each other. So when, as you might have seen in the concept note, he said that are there ways to actually look at these languages as part of a larger conceptual whole? Geographically, of course, they are, given that the Mahabharata actually specifies in 63 verses in the critical edition of the Mahabharata. You have a very clear mention of the Janapadas, one of which is Dravida, for instance. Now, similarly, from a language point of view itself, Dr. Jha is a trained linguist. So clearly, there are ways to look at this. Now, while there are similarities, I must also mention this work by Tulkapiyam, by K. Meenakshi ji, her book named Tulkapiyam and Ashtadhyayi, published by the International Institute of Tamil Studies in 2000, last decade of the 20th century. Now, she claims in the book that though the question of relationship between the two, she's looking at the grammatical systems, right? Quote, though the question of relationship between the two grammatical systems of the ancient Indian languages has been the topic of research for quite some time now, their approaches have always remained either to establish or to refute the dependence of Tulkapiyar on the grammatical texts of Sanskrit language, and the conclusions arrived at by them are difficult to accept as their findings are not based on the individual grammars as a whole. As such, they are partial and, in her view, biased. Moreover, the earlier studies were confined to only the similarities found in these texts, totally ignoring the differences. In fact, the number of differences, in her view, are more than the similarities. Therefore, it is necessary to approach the topic afresh by following a new method, which would account not only for similarity, but also for differences. As many scholars are not knowledgeable about what has been described in the individual grammars under review, a detailed account of individual grammars should precede such comparative analysis. Now, clearly, from what I've read, she wants to make the case that we should not be looking at only similarities. One should also look at differences. Of course, one should take a balanced view about what the data actually speaks to us. There could be similarities, there could be differences, but notwithstanding what you read, look at the fact that she has included the following within the blue box. However, it is difficult to rule out the possibility of the influence of Sanskrit tradition, right, on TOI. TOI is Tolkapiyar, especially when a strong grammatical tradition existed much before Tolkapiyar's time. There is nothing wrong in accepting this. Even the modern linguists, when a new theory has been proposed, the tendency to apply it to a particular area of the research has been noticed, right? Even in page 454, she says these evidences seem to be simply reflecting Tolkapiyar's familiarity with Sanskrit texts and words of Sanskrit origins, right? Tolkapiyam contains a number of references to Sanskrit elements. This is Dr. Meenakshi, who is also looking at the differences, right? But so clearly she is pointing out to the similarities as well now. Sangam texts also show evidences for the presence of Sanskrit culture and also evidences for the words of Sanskrit origin. According to her, Tolkapiyar reveals his profound scholarship in Sanskrit and knowledge of Sanskrit texts. He speaks about the words of Sanskrit origins. He prohibits the words of Sanskrit origins being used in poetry without nativizing and prescribed rules for Tamilizing them, right? So Tolkapiyar also refers to translated works in terms like Vallinul, that is original text. This term can mean only Sanskrit or Prakrit text, as there is no evidence for the presence of any other language during Tolkapiyar's time, unquote. Now, I felt it is important to kind of not miss this. With that, I'd like to mention the person who runs INDICA courses at INDICA requested that I mention this. We have a couple of courses for in Tamil and for Tamil on INDICA courses, which is our platform specifically for courses, Tamil for beginners, as well as learning life with Tirukural, chants for every age. For those who would be interested and who are interested to kind of explore these, please do check out these courses. I've included the URLs below as well, but you could just search with these Tamil for beginners and INDICA, INDICA Academy, and with the other title, and you should be able to find them relatively easily. As mentioned at the top of the symposium, INDICA, we are an institute for Indian knowledge systems. We envision the well-being of all beings. We believe the wisdom of Indic heritage fosters health, happiness, and harmony for humanity. We have a twofold mission for advancing IKS. We offer unique, authentic, and immersive learning experiences. We enable leaders to fulfill their potential, passion, and purpose. This is our URL. That is the photo of our founder, Harikiran Vadlamani Garu. And here is an award, an MOU from between Indic Academy and Indian Knowledge Systems Division, right, to provide experiential learning and immersive learning experiences for students and faculties in various IKS domains, especially folk arts and tribal traditions. That is the Dean IKS of INDICA, Dr. Nagaraj Paturi Garu, receiving the MOU, signed MOU. With that, this particular symposium comes to a wrap. I hope those who joined in found something, at least a thing or two, but I'm quite certain it is more to learn and to absorb. We thank you for joining this symposium. These talks, as an entire playlist and individual talks, will go onto YouTube once they are edited. And with that, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Srinivas Garu, Poti Garu, and others who have been in the back end to make this symposium and other symposiums possible. Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Jai Hind.